My husband James is always busy with work, leaving me with all the chores and child rearing. I'm used to doing all the childcare on my own, but one day our daughter fell seriously ill and we rushed to the hospital. Feeling helpless, I tried to contact James, who was supposedly on a business trip, but I couldn't reach him. I decided to call his office and was shocked by what I was told. Your husband is actually on paid leave. This must be a joke, right? He told me he was on a business trip. Was all his overtime a lie? I was convinced that James was cheating. Soon after, I found out who he was having an affair with. I can't forgive such a betrayal. I decided to bring them down to hell and started devising a plan. It won't be long until their true colors are revealed. My name is Ellie. James is a senior colleague at the company who I had a crush on. I have a colleague from my department named Nikki. Thanks to Nikki, I was able to start dating James. After marrying James, I got pregnant quickly and resigned from the company after giving birth. That's how our daughter, Daisy, was born. James's work became busier since my pregnancy, and I spent many days alone. Even after giving birth, his pace of work didn't change, and I was almost always taking care of Daisy alone. Nikki always comforted me on the phone when I complained. James used to be kind. James is working hard for the family now, so Ellie, you need to hold down the fort. When Nikki said that, it made me feel better and motivated me to keep going. What about you, Nikki? You're madly in love with your boyfriend, right? Nikki answered my question happily. Yes, actually, we just got engaged. Really? Congratulations! Your boyfriend is the heir to that old, prestigious hotel, right? Congrats! Thanks. We haven't set a date yet, but the wedding will be grand. You must come, Ellie. Absolutely, I will. Nikki's boyfriend, Frank, is handsome, rich, and kind. The kind of guy everyone envies. He's nothing like James, who's always working. That sounds nice. As soon as I said that, Nikki scolded me. Don't say that! You got married before I did, so you're my senior. Plus, you have Daisy, don't you? You're right. I have a daughter. I need to try harder to be a better wife. After venting to Nikki and feeling better, I was able to get back to my chores and child rearing from the next day. One day, while preparing James's luggage for a business trip and sending him off early in the morning, I noticed Daisy's face was flushed. She seemed to be a bit feverish. She might have caught a cold or something. I decided to cancel going out and quietly stayed at home. Daisy's condition did not improve and her fever kept rising as time passed. Maybe it would be better to take her to the hospital. By the time I started to prepare to go to the hospital, Daisy's temperature had risen to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Daisy had a seizure just as I was lifting her. Daisy! I hurriedly called an ambulance. We arrived at the hospital, and thankfully my daughter's condition stabilized, but she had to be admitted for the day just to be safe. Feeling unable to endure being alone, I called James in anxiety, but I couldn't get through to him at all. Perhaps his phone was off. Why at a time like this? That's it. I had an idea. If I contact his office, I might be able to get the number of where he is on his business trip. If there's someone accompanying him, they can pass the message. I called James's office. When I asked about his whereabouts, the person at the office told me in a puzzled manner. Your husband has taken a week off on paid leave from today. Huh? I ended the call in confusion. What on earth? Unable to stay put, I called Nikki. Ellie, what's up? Upon hearing Nikki's kind voice, I felt like bursting into tears. You see, I'm at the hospital now. Hospital! Daisy came down with a fever. She had a seizure and was admitted in an emergency. I tried to call James, but it seems his phone is off. And then, just as I was about to share what had happened at the office earlier, Nikki interrupted. Oh yeah, that's right. James is on a business trip in quite a rural area, so he must have a bad signal. Huh? I was momentarily lost for words. The person at the office said, James is on paid leave. There's no way Nikki, who works in the same department, wouldn't know about it. Looking back, Nikki seemed to know a lot about James's private life. Not only about James, but she also seemed to know conversations that took place at home that I had no recollection of sharing with her. At this point, I finally connected the dots. It wasn't my misunderstanding. Nikki and James were meeting behind my back. Even now, surely. Barely resisting the urge to confront, I asked Nikki for confirmation. Hey, Nikki, where are you right now? Where, you ask? At home. Could you come to the hospital now? I'm feeling anxious being alone. What? Right now? That's impossible. Why? Are you with someone? No, I'm alone, but I'm a bit tied up right now. I see. Sorry for asking too much. Then, could we do a video call? Seeing your face would probably make me feel better. A video call? But I don't have any makeup on right now. I've seen you without makeup plenty of times when we went on trips together. But... Nikki sounded flustered. She was extremely suspicious. Then I heard a familiar voice from the other side of the phone. Nikki, stop talking on the phone and come over here. It was unmistakably James's voice. Ah, sorry. The TV was just left on. Nikki hastily tried to cover it up, but I was not fooled. I can't believe those two have been betraying me behind my back. However, there's no point in confronting them now. I patiently endured and maintained my composure. No worries, I didn't mean to disturb you while you're relaxing and watching TV. I'm just a bit shaken up, that's all. Talk to you later. Yeah, I hope Daisy gets well soon. Nikki ended the call with a relieved tone. A few minutes later, I received another call, this time from a panicked James. Ellie, is Daisy okay? Huh? How do you know about it? Ah, well, you called my cell phone, didn't you? The only reason you'd call while I'm on a business trip must be about Daisy, right? He's full of lies, despite knowing he'd heard from Nikki. I kept my cool and didn't point it out. Daisy had a high fever of 104 degrees and had convulsions. We called an ambulance and she's at the hospital now. I see. And how's Daisy doing now? She's calm for now. The doctors recommended that she be admitted for observation today. I see. That's a relief. So, will you be coming home? Huh? No, I still have some work left. James's response was noticeably vague. As long as she's stable now, that's a relief. The hospital will take good care of her, so I don't need to rush back. You've always been there for Daisy, Ellie. I trust you to handle things like always. He suddenly became talkative, desperately trying to justify why he doesn't need to return. Watching their behavior, I had an epiphany. For James, our family no longer mattered. The moment I realized that, my affection for him just drained away. Fine then, I won't think of him as my husband or Daisy's father any longer. I'll drag them both down to hell. I began planning to abandon James, but a simple divorce isn't enough. I'll take every penny of the compensation from James and Nikki. First, I needed evidence of their affair. Looking at Nikki's social media posts, she gleefully shared images of their upcoming dates and locations of past ones. In those pictures, glimpses of James's belongings, like his tie or wristwatch, were visible. They likely never suspected that I would scrutinize their online behavior to this extent. My anger towards them rekindled my spirits, and I was able to energetically nurse Daisy and gather evidence at the same time. The test results showed no issues, so Daisy was to be discharged the following day. While James was on his so-called business trip, he didn't once inquire about Daisy's test results. That solidified my resolution. I greeted James with a composed expression when he returned home with an innocent look on his face. "Welcome home."
"I'm back."
James glanced at Daisy.
"Looks like you're doing well. You sure caused a fuss calling an ambulance."
Holding back my anger towards James, I went about my usual chores and childcare duties. Then I called Nikki. "Hello, Nikki?" "Allie, how has Daisy been since then?" I used to be grateful for Nikki's kindness, but now all I felt was deceit. But I couldn't afford to lash out here. Under the guise of making small talk, I probed Nikki for her recent happenings and future plans. I continued making preparations steadily and was about to add the finishing touches. One day, I invited Nikki to a cafe under the pretext that I had something to give her. "Ellie, what do you want to give me?" I handed her a voucher for a stay at an inn. "Wait, isn't this for that super popular inn? What's up?" "I got it as a gift, but it's expiring this weekend. I can't go because I'm worried about Daisy. Would you take it?" "Really? Are you sure? Thanks." As I expected, Nikki was ecstatic and accepted the voucher from me. A few days later, James told me he had another business trip over the weekend. How convenient. I can't believe everything is going according to my plan. Over the weekend, I left Daisy with my parents and arranged to meet a man at the nearest train station to the inn. His name is Frank, the fiancé of Nikki. I had been in contact with Frank on social media and let him know about my husband James and Nikki's affair. He agreed to cooperate with my plan. After meeting with Frank, we headed to the inn together. With a practiced hand, Frank was able to find out which room they were in and got a hold of the room key. Together, Frank and I stormed into the room. The ones there were James and Nikki, clad in bathrobes.
Why are you here?"
Seeing me barging into the room, James shrieked. Nikki also widened her eyes in surprise. "Frank, why are you here too?" "We're here to expose your affair." My words left them momentarily flushed, but my husband started to argue right away.
"What are you talking about? I told you I'm on a business trip. She's just accompanying me."
"Oh, it's pretty suspicious that you're sharing a room at a spa resort if you're supposed to be working."
"Shut up. You, who quit your job, don't understand anything about work. Besides, entering a room without permission is trespassing."
Hearing this, Nikki also defended James. "Yeah, it's strange that you just barged in. And how did you know about this room?" Frank calmly answered for me.
"We asked the front desk."
"At the front desk? How could they just disclose guest information? This is a highly rated, high-end inn, yet they don't know how to handle their guests."
"Can you stop insulting our inn?"
"Wait, our inn?" Actually, the reason I got the voucher for this inn was because of Frank. This inn is run by his family. As the son of the owner, there's no way he couldn't get guest information from the front desk. Frank explained this to Nikki in a matter-of-fact way.
"Don't you remember what you wrote on the guest registry? You put my name as your companion."
"Oh!" Nikki instantly showed a regretful expression.
"The staff knows me, so they told me the room number and handed me the key. You probably hesitated to write down the name of a married man's mistress, but it's funny how predictable your actions were. Just like someone who'd have an affair despite being engaged."
Nikki couldn't argue back and just hung her head. I turned back to James. "Don't think you can talk your way out of this now that we've caught you red-handed on your affair trip. I'm going to divorce you, and I'll be sure to ask for substantial alimony." Hearing this, James grimaced and retorted.
"You really are an unpleasant woman. That's why I'm having an affair. I'd rather not have a woman like you, and I'll marry Nikki.
Upon hearing James's words, Nikki hurriedly lifted her head. Wait, what are you talking about? I have no intentions of marrying you, James.
What?
You were just a fling until I married. The one I truly love is Frank.
But didn't you invite me to this trip, Nikki?
I did it because Frank was busy. Nikki suddenly clung to Frank. Listen, Frank, this was just premarital jitters. The so-called cold feet. You get it, right? I promise I'll be a good wife after we get married. I'll work hard even if I have to take over this inn. So, please. Frank coldly brushed off Nikki's pleas.
A woman who cheats because of cold feet is bound to cheat again, claiming baby blues or midlife crisis. I have no intention of spending my life with such a foolish woman. It's out of the question to entrust her with the inn that has been passed down through generations.
You're saying you want to break up?
Yes, our engagement is off.
Facing them, who were pale as death, I declared, now that you and Frank seem to have sorted out your issues, let me state my demands. I will divorce James. Of course, I will have custody of Daisy. And you two will pay me a suitable compensation for the emotional distress. James will also pay child support for Daisy.
Compensation?
James and Nikki widened their eyes at the word. Well, it's only natural, isn't it? You cheat and you don't even have the decency to be prepared for the consequences? James started desperately trying to defend himself.
If you want compensation, you need legal proof. Just being together in an inn could be excused for work or something.
Such a shame. I have plenty of evidence. I laid out several photos showing their affair right in front of them. When I checked Nikki's social media, she posted a lot about places where they dated and planned dates. There were even dates that Frank didn't remember scheduling. Nikki, you even had the nerve to post about your dates with James. What a despicable character. But thanks to you, it was easy to track your movements and gather evidence. James seemed to give up after seeing the evidence. Suddenly, he clung to me.
Please, can't you reconsider? Daisy needs a father, doesn't she?
A father? A man who prioritizes dating his mistress over his own daughter's hospitalization isn't a father or anything else. We're better off without a father like that. All this time, you've left everything to me when it comes to Daisy. Don't you dare pretend to be a father now. As James fell silent, Frank seemed to remember something and said,
Oh, right. Since the guests were falsely registered under a pseudonym, that voucher is invalid. So, make sure you pay for your stay here.
Immediately, James and Nikki started arguing.
I'm not paying for this expensive place. I only came because Nikki said it was free.
What? This mess is all because you got cheating, James. Now my plan to marry into a wealthy family is ruined. You're responsible for this, so you should pay my compensation.
I've got my own compensation and child support payments. There's no way I can afford that.
Leaving the two to their ugly argument, Frank and I left the room. Frank, thank you for everything. I expressed my gratitude to Frank, who willingly cooperated in this plan.
No, I should be the one thanking you. It would have been a disaster if I'd married Nikki without knowing anything.
Frank also seemed to be able to receive compensation from Nikki. The affair between James and Nikki became known to their company, and they were both relocated separately to regional areas. The reasons for their transfers became rumors at their new locations, and their bad reputation spread quickly. Now, it seems they are both being ostracized from their communities. On the other hand, I was able to re-enter the workforce at a company introduced by Frank. Now that I have a substantial amount of compensation and child support, Daisy and I are living a happy life together. Even without a father, Daisy and I will definitely find happiness. I held my little girl's hand.